Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and happy Halloween to all of you. I know that I said I wasn't planning on doing any reviews today, and that's because it is Halloween. Because of that, I'm actually the one in charge of handing out candy to trick-or-treaters. My parents watching TV downstairs, they haven't really gotten a chance to, so I figured I would. And if the doorbell rings in the middle of this review, that is why. If I have to pause the review in the middle of it, I am sorry, guys, but I decided to do this review for you guys. Now, I know that this was 2 weeks ago. Sorry. I know it was 2 weeks ago since this episode, um, aired, and it's been 2 weeks since it aired, but I figured, regardless of that, I have been very behind in my Doctor Who reviews. Like, I've been very behind. I haven't watched the past two episodes, and I'll explain why right now. The first week I didn't watch was because I had my school homecoming happened, and I was planning on watching it that night, but I got preoccupied with too many things, and I was trying to focus more on classic horror movie reviews on the weekend, so I really just got preoccupied with that and didn't think about it. And then last week, I was watching a lot of classic horror movie reviews, and that's what ended up happening. So I figured, you know what, now that I'm done with those classic horror reviews, now that I ended them last week, I have to continue my Doctor Who reviews. Guys, this will go on with or without the Kid of Awesome. He actually can't make it right now. I really wanted to do this review as soon as I was done the episode, so he actually can't make it right now. So for the next two episodes, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to be doing the review solo, so let's just get to it. This was this is going to be my review for Doctor Who, Series 8, Episode 9, Flatline, and this episode was amazing. I loved it. I thought this episode was absolutely fantastic. By far the best episode of the season, just by far. And the reason I'd say it was the best episode of the season was because this episode was very, very different from a lot of Doctor Who episodes I've seen. I haven't seen many Doctor Who episodes, but from what I've seen this season, they've really been kind of building up to this, and I think that was definitely really cool to see this happen. Basically, this episode, we didn't see a lot of the Doctor, doing his thing and, helping people and basically being the hero here. No, we saw Clara took over and basically become the heroine of this episode, which I personally really enjoyed, and I thought that was definitely very well done. And, Jenna Coleman is the best part of the show right now, so I really love that they did that. So let's just get this episode. And this is an episode where if you guys don't like Clara, you're definitely not going to like this episode. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't like Clara, okay? We all have to admit Clara is the best character on this show. She really is. So the episode opens, and it was a very strange opening, because it just opens with this man on the phone. It's literally just a man on the phone. He's talking about the buzzing that he's hearing all over the place, some kind of swarm, and he disappears and leaves the phone hanging off the hook. His face appears on the wall in the same room, and that was definitely a very strange way to start the episode. Literally his face just appears. So he suddenly screams, and I thought that was just really crazy what happened, definitely, and I wasn't, expecting it. I thought that was definitely a very crazy way to start the episode, and definitely really good. Now, we don't see Bill for the rest of the episode because he basically, is now on a painting and everything, but it perfectly sets up the tone of this episode. Which, by the way, guys, this episode was, I would like to say, the actual horror episode of the year, because this episode was scary, okay? This episode was legitimately scary. This episode had some genuinely creepy things to it. There were a lot of things they did that I thought were very well done, and I would like to pretend that Mommy episode did not happen. Even though that was a good episode, this episode was so much better than that, definitely. I mean, that episode happened the week before. I did not really like it. But I knew this episode was going to be really good, and I thought it was definitely a better Halloween episode than the one from the previous week, definitely. So we then see Clara. She's taking her clothing with her in the TARDIS, and she's basically getting ready to get off the TARDIS because, she told the doctor that Danny wanted her to get off, and she's knowing that Danny is getting a bit territorial. And the doctor says they've returned the same place and same time-ish. They left nothing strange readings. They're basically in the present at this point. So Clara notices that the door out of the TARDIS, she's about to leave. She's basically ready to leave and everything. However, she notices that the door of the TARDIS has shrunk entirely. And I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense completely. It's completely shrunk. It's, it's like this small. Like, obviously she can't leave. So Clara notices that they're actually in Bristol, which is 120 miles off from where they should be, and the doctor says they can't take the TARDIS anywhere else until he figures out what is going on with it, and Clara decides to take a look around, because the thing is, obviously they know they're not in where they should be, and definitely something very weird is going on. So the doctor is investigating on that. And a graffiti artist, we meet a character who I personally really enjoyed. I really like this character. I thought he was a very good character, in my opinion. Really wanted to see more of him, but I guess we're not going to see more of him. Maybe we will. I like seeing him. I hope he becomes, like, I can't remember her name, but the girl that, the little girl, not the little girl, but you guys know who I'm talking about. I can't remember her name. Courtney. I really hope he becomes like Courtney, because I really like this character. I really hope they do what they're doing with Courtney, where he's on some episodes, and I definitely really like they're doing that. So I hope they do that with this guy as well. So we see this graffiti artist, Rigsy. He is a graffiti artist. He's being forced to paint over his own work as part of community service, and Clara runs into him, and there's a series of people looking inward in the walls under and overpass. So Clara calls back to the doctor to tell him about a series of missing people. There are many missing people, and especially, that goes with the beginning of the episode, makes sense. So she finds out that the TARDIS has shrunk even more, like it's even smaller now, and actually maybe too small to get out of, and the doctor passes Clara his screwdriver and psychotic paper, as well as his communicator that lets the doctor see through her eyes. She runs into the graffiti artist Rigsy again and tells him she's the doctor, Clara Oswald. She makes him think basically that she's the doctor. She basically makes him think that. So I thought that was definitely very interesting what she did, that she was kind of pretending to be the doctor, because basically this is her mission now. She realizes, look, she's on her own here, that she can't have the doctor help her. All these other times the doctor has helped her, and she can't have the doctor help her this time because the doctor's trapped pretty much. So he brings her to the room from the opening, explaining that the man went missing in a locked room with no windows, and Clara's suggesting that the man might be shrunk down, which is definitely not good. And Rigsy gets scared. He goes to leave, obviously fearing that he's going to get shrunk because he doesn't want that to happen. So she pulls out the miniature TARDIS, which is the size of this gum container. Like, this is literally the size of the TARDIS right now. You know how they have, like, those miniature TARDIS toys that are, like, keychains? I know they have this because someone from my school actually has one. I have a friend who has a TARDIS keychain, and that's basically the size of the TARDIS right now. It's the size of a TARDIS keychain. That's how small it is. Not like that small, but like the size of this gum box, I'd say. That's how small the TARDIS is right now. So she has the doctor open the door to show him that she's not crazy, and the doctor picks up some readings. He pretty much thinks that she's going crazy because he doesn't think that the TARDIS can actually be that small. He doesn't believe it, like... the doctor's really confident. And again, I really like the way they're writing the doctor in this season. And in this episode particularly, I thought it was definitely really well done. They wrote the doctor as sort of like a character who, Clara doesn't really want to work with, but she has to because she can't get out of it. And I definitely really enjoyed that. Plus, we're seeing that the doctor still thinks he's smarter than her, when really he's not. I'd have to say that if I had to say who's smarter, the doctor or Clara, definitely they need each other because they're their own tag team, and, she's his, now I can't remember what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. She's the chosen one, I think it's called, something like that. His a companion. That's who she is. She's his companion, and she has to stay by him. But I think that she pretty much has to work with him. But I pretty much think she is just as smart as the doctor. So the doctor picks up some rings, and Clara and Rigsy leave. And the doctor needs more information. He needs to know what's going on, because he has no idea what she's talking about. He's, is talking to her on, like, this little, like, transmitter device. And he sends Clara and Rigsy to other places where people disappeared. And she uses psychic paper to pose as MI5 to a police officer. So the doctor passes Clara a sledgehammer to start searching in the walls. The police officer goes into another room, and he starts hearing all these sounds. And these are the same sounds that we heard in the beginning of the episode. And I was like, oh shit, this is not going to be good. So they find the, excuse me, they find the floor becoming wavy and is sucked down, and the doctor says that the TARDIS should be able to detect anything in the known universe, and then he realized that creatures may not be out of this universe, which is definitely really interesting. Basically, creatures are not out of this universe, and I thought that was a fantastic twist that he found that out, definitely, because it definitely does make sense, because everyone's getting shrunk, and they're no longer humans after that. So now it makes sense why he's sort of thinking that. So basically, we see, we basically see that after this, he notices a mural of a nervous system on the wall, and notices that the mural in the previous room was human skin. So someone is definitely trying to understand three-dimensional beings. Someone is definitely doing that. And the beings begin flattening things in the room, and Clara and Rigsy climb onto a high chair in the room, and Danny calls. And of course, Danny, I have to say, I don't really like the direction they're going with Danny's character. I don't feel like he needs to be on the show as much as they're showing him. But here's the thing. The way they used him in this episode was funny. It worked in my opinion. It worked. I thought it was personally really funny. I liked it. So Danny calls. They see creatures climbing up in the room. Clara's like, "Oh, everything's just fine." He's like, "How is she?" And she's like, "Oh, everything's just fine." She uses a sonic screwdriver to swing them out the window, and I thought that was really funny the way they worked that. There were some very funny scenes in this episode, definitely. While this episode did get very dark, there were some very funny scenes in this episode, which I definitely appreciated. So the Doctor goes on about how these creatures came from a universe with only 2 dimensions. Excuse me, guys. So much phlegm. Sorry. Don't drink milk before you do a review. It's that simple. So, basically, the Doctor, talks about how those creatures came from a universe with only 2 dimensions, and that's really weird. Which makes sense because, we, as humans, see everything in 3 dimensions. So that's why everything is so small, because there's only 2 dimensions. So the Doctor also calls out Clara for lying to him and not telling Danny that she's still traveling on the TARDIS. And the communicator starts acting very, I thought that was definitely a very good scene. And I like the way they tied that into this plot. That had nothing to do with the plot, but they tied it in really well, in my opinion. I definitely really enjoyed that. And one of the things I definitely really appreciated about that scene was the way it was constructed. I thought that was definitely really, really good, and I definitely really appreciate that. I thought that was definitely really well done, the way they did that. So, because, he's upset with her, definitely, because of the last episode, and the communicator starts acting very funny, and she stops to Sonic it, she stops Sonic it and everything, and Rigsy notices his community service group going to paint over the people in the overpass, which is definitely not a good thing, and he realizes something's going on there. So Doctor sees and realizes they're the missing people. So Clara's trying to use the psychic paper to trick the men in charge, but he has too much of a lack of imagination to buy it. He doesn't believe what she's saying because he's someone who does not believe in, anything that's not, he's one of those guys that thinks he's like a know-it-all. He is very much more into science. He doesn't really believe in imagination. And it turns out that the 2-dimensional beings were using the people as camouflage and come off the walls. So that definitely does make sense what's going on. I thought that was a very well done scene and a fantastic twist, definitely, if they did that. And I definitely really, really enjoyed that. This episode, as I said, had some really good twists, definitely. So the group hides in a large garage, and Clara uses some Doctor attitude to take leadership of the group. The Doctor, he has like a lot of attitude and is very stern. Sometimes Clara does the same thing. She's been working with the Doctor for so long, so obviously she knows the way the Doctor does things, and I thought that was definitely really good. And the Doctor theorizes that the 2-dimensional beings tried to communicate and no one answered. So they may not realize that 3-dimensional beings are satendent, and the Doctor translates some of their sounds. 55, which is the number on the coat of one of the men. Then they say 22, which is the number on George, and George gets flattened, then the rest run for a tunnel. So most of the rest of this episode takes place in this tunnel. It's very creepy. It's very dark. The thumbnail I showed you, the thumbnail you guys see on this video that shows them all in the tunnel, that's basically where they go to. So the Doctor tries to come up with a solution. Clara discovers that the exits out of the tunnel have flat handles. So cutting off their escapes, Rigsy says that the closest exit is where the old line they're in joins the new. And the Doctor says he needs 5 minutes to open the door. Then they're at it, and he builds a device that can restore 3 dimensions on a small scale and hands it out, dubbing it a TWOTUS. And I thought that was interesting, the way he called. And I understand why he called it a TWOTUS, because it's in 2 dimensions, obviously. So that's why I call it a TOTUS. So Clara used it, but it shorts out, and it's not going to work. So the aliens leak more energy from the TARDIS, and a giant stone hand suddenly emerges, grabs Al, and the Doctor realizes that the aliens have advanced to 3 dimensions. And that was awesome when that happened. So basically they can now see the aliens. The aliens begin to emerge from the floor wearing the bodies of their victims. I mean, it's really creepy stuff going on in this scene. Definitely very creepy. And I definitely really, really enjoyed how creepy this got. Definitely, I really like that. So basically then we see that, basically the Doctor boosts the power on the TWOTUS, and Clara, Rigsy, and Fenn get the door open. He then has Clara reverse the process, sealing the door. However, the aliens manage to undo it and open the door, and Clara and the others run. So as the aliens pursue them, the Doctor says that he knows how to send the aliens back to their own dimension. However, the TARDIS doesn't have enough dimension energy to pull it off. So she pauses and Fenton grabs at her purse, knocking the TARDIS into a nearby shaft, and Clara loses the doctor's signal and tells Fen and Rigsy that they have to move now. They have to move, and they just have no choice. They have to. So the doctor gets a weak signal from Clara and warns her that the TARDIS's structural integrity is failing. And he looks at him and realizes that he's on the train line, and a train is coming. No, not like the train in the Mummy episode. Let's not talk about that. I was not a fan of that. So the TARDIS doesn't have enough power to dematerialize, and the doctor tells Clara to get Rigsy and Fenton out, and he basically realizes that he's not going to make it out of this TARDIS, basically. You know, he's not going to make it out. He's not going to be able to get out, basically. It's not going to be as simple as he thought. And basically, there's not enough power to turn it off. It's that simple. There's not enough power. And thinking very quickly, you know, she is very determined on what she needs to do. Clara tells the doctor to move the TARDIS manually, reaching through the door. He uses his fingers to tip the exterior shell upright, then inch it off the track. It falls back onto the track. The doctor lunges to the console, pulling a switch. The transmitter, though, goes dead, and I thought that was great, because the transmitter is dead, and because of this, now Clara has to do this all herself. She is in full control here, and she needs to basically continue this herself. It very much reminded me of Kill the Moon. However, at this, this was different, because in Kill the Moon, the doctor basically abandoned her. At this point, the doctor was lost and tried to help her, but she's not going to be able to get out of this. And that's why I actually thought this episode was, in my opinion, better than Kill the Moon. I just thought it was a better episode, in my opinion, and I definitely really appreciated that because of that in this episode. I thought that was definitely a very well-done twist, because now you have the suspicion, you have this, suspense of, oh no, is Clara going to be able to get them out of this? And I thought that was really cool. So then they see the aliens moving down that tunnel. Just another train comes at them from the other side. Clara uses the sonic screwdriver to flash the red light. The driver stops the train just in time. And in the TARDIS, the doctor tries to send a signal. And he warns that the TARDIS is now in siege mode. With no way in or out, he was able to activate the force field. But there's not enough power to turn it off. And the train driver, Roscoe, gets out and asks what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on at this point. So Clara says there's a blockage up ahead and confirms that the train is empty. However, Roscoe warns that someone will have to man the dead man switch. And Clara's trying to work a way to run it anyway. And Rigsy gets in and starts it up. And Clara leaps aboard. And Rigsy, well aware that he's going to die, he knows he's not going to make it out of this, tells her to go. She rigs the switch with a headband and says that there's no reason to die. He doesn't have to die. She wants him to get out of this. She doesn't want him to die. And I personally don't want him to die, because if Rigsy died, we'd lose a really good character. Because I want him to be like Courtney, as I said. I really want to see him again. So she runs back with Rigsy. And Clara notices a small metal box on the track and realizes that it's actually the depowered TARDIS. It's a really small metal box, probably the size of this paper. That's how small it is. So she picks it up and they run. And the group takes refuge in an old station office, and Clara's unable to contact the doctor. She wonders, and I thought this was just such a great scene. Jenna Coleman's acting in this scene was absolutely amazing. I loved it, and I'm like, okay, this is amazing. So she wonders what the doctor would have done now. She's like, okay, what would the doctor do now? And she then remembers that the doctor said that he actually needs more energy to beat the aliens. And she finds a map of the underground, turns it over, finds a can of spray paint, and tells Rigsy that she has a commission for him. So while Rigsy is working, Clara takes the TARDIS to a power box, and once Rigsy's finished, everyone gathers at the power box as the aliens advance down the tunnel. They come to a piece of paper, which Rigsy has drawn to show a door and is now covering the alcove where they're hiding. And inside the TARDIS, the life support fails, and the doctor says that Clara made a mighty fine doctor. And I thought that was definitely really good. And basically, therefore, that it works. So the aliens blast the painting, trying to render it to three-dimensional. On the other side of the wall, the TARDIS absorbs the energy, and in the TARDIS, the doctor realizes that he has power and takes his vessel out to confront the aliens. He realizes that his power is back and everything. So he cuts off the aliens in force field, and just badass doctor. That was awesome. He's saying he tried to communicate with them. However, the doctor realizes that they're actually monsters and steps out saying that's his role to fight monsters. Clara tosses him the sonic screwdriver. He uses it to send them away, dubbing them the Boneless, and that was definitely really good. So the doctor takes the TARDIS back to the field, steps out with the others, and this is basically the end of the episode. Roscoe kisses the ground, hugs Clara, and Rigsy calls his mother, and Fen dismisses the deaths of Stan, George, and Al, saying that they were scumbags, and he thanked the doctor for saving his life and walks off, and the doctor wonders if the wrong people survived. He thinks maybe the wrong people survived and everything, and the doctor then tells Clara that she saved the world, and Clara admits that she heard him say that she made a good doctor. And Rigsy comes over, and the doctor says he's looking forward to seeing his next painting since the last one saved the world. And Clara and Rigsy share a hug, and then the graffiti artist leaves. And this really makes me think that we're going to see Rigsy again. Just the way they did that, I really feel we're going to see him again. I don't feel it's going to be the last time we see Rigsy. I do feel that there's going to be a way we see him again, but I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. So basically, Danny calls Clara's phone, but she ignores it. She tries to get the doctor to admit to her that she was good at being the doctor. He finally admits that she was an exceptional doctor, but goodness had nothing to do with it. So that was definitely very interesting, and you can see that definitely the doctor like doesn't care how Clara does these missions. I love how they're writing the doctor. They're really writing the doctor as he doesn't care how Clara completes these missions. Goodness has nothing to do with it. It's just how she completed the mission and everything. The Doctor, as I said, in this season is not exactly a likable person. I definitely like the way they're writing him like that. Also, is Danny going to get upset that Clara did not answer that phone call? I'm wondering if that's going to happen as well in the next episode. So then we get the end of the episode, which was really big. I loved the end of the episode. Thought this was amazing. In her office, we see Missy, and of course, we've been seeing Missy throughout the season. I've been very interested in her character. She looks at the image of Clara and figures that she's chosen well. Holy shit, what's going to happen in the next episode? I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there. The next episode is going to be amazing, and I really love that cliffhanger. I love this episode to end on a cliffhanger, because it really did end on a cliffhanger, and there is one more episode I need to watch, and then I can watch tomorrow's episode. I don't know if I'll get to that episode today. I'm going to try to, but we'll have to see what happens there. But overall, guys, I love this episode. Thought this was by far the best episode of the season. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Are we going to see Rigsy again? I really hope we do. I really liked his character. I thought he was a well-done character, and I really hope he becomes like a Courtney. I guess my only complaint with this episode was I would have wished that Danny, I like the way they're writing Danny's character in this episode, but Danny, again, did not need to be in this episode, and I guess it's really the only problem I have with this episode. Also, there were some scenes where the pacing was a little bit slow, but other than that, I really enjoyed this episode. I had no problems with it, thought it was definitely the best episode of the season, extremely intense. Jenna Coleman's officially the best part of the show by far. And I really like the way they're writing the Doctor, definitely. Do you guys think they're writing the Doctor in a very interesting way? What do you think the Doctor, do you really think the Doctor doesn't really care what Clara is doing? He only cares about what he's doing? I don't know. It's kind of confusing what he actually thinks there, because the Doctor is a person who is a very complex man. You never know what he's thinking about. He's a very intelligent man, but you never know where he's heading with this. So I'm very interested in seeing where he's going with that. And I will see you guys in my next video. Also, why does Missy want to see Clara? What is she talking about when she says, Clara's the one? What is she talking about? We'll have to see what happens there. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the other episode of Doctor Who that I need to review. So I'll get to that in my next video. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye. And again, if I don't put this video up today, then happy Halloween to all of you. And I hope you guys are enjoying your Halloween. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.